You know who it is, the Don Castaneda, expert life coach, recovery coach, intervention professional, here to discuss Marianne Bachmeier. Marianne Bachmeier, I hope I'm saying her name right. I believe it's German. She killed someone in a courtroom, and she went to prison for it. Now, the reason I'm talking about this, you'll see here in a second. In 1981, Marianne Bachmeier fatally shot the man who killed her 7-year-old daughter during his trial. She smuggled a 22 caliber Beretta pistol in her purse and pulled the trigger in the courtroom. The case of Marianne Bachmeier became one of the most shocking and widely discussed acts of vigilante justice in modern German history. Her daughter Anna had been kidnapped and murdered by a man named Klaus. Um, Bachmeier made headlines across Germany when she shot and killed the man who had murdered her 7-year-old daughter. So this was a while ago, but I discussed this because she took matters into her own hands. She's a vigilante, and the man actually raped her, so that's the part they left out. But the man committed rape and murder of her daughter, and she was 7 years old. So that's an extremely heinous crime, and for her to have to go to court to, speak out against him and see the man who raped and murdered her daughter, um, and for him to just probably get, life in prison or 20 years or something, um, that would enrage anybody. So that's good. You should have rage. That's not something you should try to bottle down or try to bury deep inside you or whatever. Try to be all proper and formal like a psychologist or, a doctor or, the country would want you to be. Just be like, oh, well, the courts will handle it. Oh, well, the politicians, the cops will handle it. They're not going to handle it. They don't handle a lot of things. And the reason I'm saying this is because, first of all, as this is a drug recovery channel, a lot of a lot of people who are addicted to drugs have gone through sexual assault or sexual abuse and things like that, domestic violence. A lot of domestic violence survivors, battered women, children who've been abused their whole lives, or children who've been raped and women who've been raped. Some they may or may not report all these cases. There might not be police reports of all these things, but heinous things do happen. And as a kid, you don't know to call the cops. You don't know to file a police report. You don't know. And when you grow up, it's too late, and you're just traumatized, and it's like no one's gonna believe you anyway. So who are you gonna tell? And revenge is not bad. Revenge is the same thing as justice. Justice is just relabeled and repackaged, like going to prison, rotting, and getting infections and just rotting from the inside out. You're physically and mentally, and having to be in around the most heinous people. That's punishment. That's revenge. That's not justice. Like justice would be an actual place of rehabilitation. We're actually treating someone with kindness and compassion, and treating in prison you don't get treated with kindness and compassion. You get treated with disrespect. You get spit on. You get shit thrown at you sometimes, and it's like you're getting in fights. You have to always worry about predators or other gangs, rival gangs, and being stabbed and killed and shit like that. And if you do drugs in prison, it's easy to overdose and die and get stuck. If you do some space or K2 or some of that those spices that just fry your brain, it could overheat your brain. You just die from your brain frying. So the reason I'm saying all that is because the prison institution and jail, the judicial system, right? The justice system. Justice is just revenge. And Marianne Bachmeier just got justice. She just got justice. A lot of people are calling that justice. I believe they actually sent her to prison for that murder. It might have been a place for her to, recover, try to like deal with the trauma and all that. That was her daughter, and because of the murder in court, she had to go to, prison. Um, she moved after being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, died at the age of 46, and buried next to her 7-year-old daughter Anna. So it has her whole life story, but that's the basic, that's the main point of it. Um, you got to be careful with Wikipedia, but you know, that's Marianne Bachmeier. So look into it. And the reason I'm saying all that is because, like, well, if if any drug addict, is addicted to drugs, for the reason that they were abused as a kid, or maybe in a domestic abuse relationship or anything like that, like battered women, doing drugs is never the answer. Doing drugs, it'll make you feel good, but it's like, well, it doesn't change the situation, right? Justice will change the situation. I'm not saying go out and kill anybody in the courtroom, but I'm saying there's other ways to get justice, right? You can make police reports, stuff like that. If you choose to take matters into your own hands, that's on you. That's like, you might have to go to prison if for assault or murder or whatever, you decide is justice. I mean, even the government kills people. They put people to death. They give them the lethal injection, electroshock. They shock them to death in a chair, old Sparky. And they sometimes do the firing squad or the gas chamber. They kill people. Government murders people. And sometimes it's actually innocent people. And they want to cry and complain about if you get justice, if you were like raped and abused as a kid, or almost murdered, or, been sexually assaulted or molested, or in a bat if you're a battered woman, if you've been nearly killed in a relationship, strangled or assaulted, and things like that, right? Drugged and poisoned or whatever's going on. um, and then the government wants to cry and complain if you get justice, but they could get all the illegal justice they want because innocent people get put to death. There's the Innocence Project of Texas, and I'm not sure if it's in every state, but you look it up. Innocence Project. Um, it's because there's innocent people on death row. There's innocent people on death row that they found out years later that there's been a wrongful incarceration. They were wrongfully incarcerated. It's been over 4,000 years wrongfully incarcerated. They've exonerated more than 250 people. So after like maybe 50 years, 20 years, 50 years, like they find out with forensic evidence and technology, with DNA evidence, forensic evidence, or fingerprints, or blood and fingerprints, that someone was actually innocent that was put to death. And there's been people who've been wrongfully put to death on death row that should never have been there simply for the fact that they were a minority. They were black and brown, sometimes white persons on death row, but that's rare, that they shouldn't be on there. But sometimes they do kill their girlfriends and they deserve to be on there. But sometimes, it's like, well, the government wants to cry and complain all this time and be like, well, don't take matters into your own hands. We'll leave it up to the government. They just kill innocent people. So if you know for a fact someone's not innocent, you're the victim. It's like, where's your rage? Where's your self-respect, your dignity, right? Your self-worth. Stand up for yourself and take action. Take matters in your own hands, right? Uh, be a vigilante. Get vigilante justice. You don't have to use all those terms. I don't believe in those terms. You're just doing what's right, what you believe in. It's your God-given right. It's your God-given divine primal right to defend yourself and your family and your offspring, and your kids and your children. So if someone attacks you or your family or your children, you have the divine, primal, God given, natural right to defend yourself and others that you care about. So that's what I'll say on that. Marianne Bachmeier, you know, stand up for yourself and do what you believe is right. She did, she paid for it. There may be consequences. The government is corrupt, but that's something you may have to deal with, right? Her daughter was raped and killed, and she was only 7 years old. And this woman, she's going to die anyway. She had pancreatic cancer. Leave it up to the cops, they're not going to do nothing. 20 years in prison, 10 years in prison, you know, the justice system gives weak sentences sometimes. They don't care. And then the perpetrator, the murderer, probably just plays dominoes and cards in prison and plays board games and gets three free meals a day, doesn't have to work, three hots in a cot. That's a homeless man's paradise, right? A mentally ill person's paradise, a murderer's paradise, right? They get to be around other people like them. They probably love it. So just keep that in mind. But I know this was a intense video. Some people are not gonna like it, but if you understand what I'm saying, those are the people that this is for. So that's it. Stay safe and take care.